Hi Gemini, happy birthday and welcome back to the Astrology 33 channel. This is your June 2026 tarot reading. Thank you to those of you who have liked, viewed, shared, and subscribed to the channel. I appreciate all of that. For those of you new to the channel, as far as what we have in front of us, it's a 12-card spread with each card representing a different house of the zodiac. Starting with your sign, Gemini, is the first house, all the way through to Taurus, representing the 12th house. And as far as the main tarot deck being used, we have the UFO tarot. Once we're done with the main spread, we'll pull an oracle card as well from the Wisdom Oracle deck. But we're actually going to start the reading off by rolling those astrology dice we have in front of us to get an idea where your focus should be as far as that goes. Alright, so we have 3. Third house energy for you guys is Leo. And really, we have a couple things happening with Leo in June. The first is Venus will be there on the 13th of June, and then at the very end of the month, we'll actually have Jupiter moving into Leo. And third house in general points to communication, short journeys, and siblings. Well, speaking of Leo, we also see it here as well. So yeah, definitely seems like Leo symbolism is going to be pretty significant for you guys, which again, you guys are the natural rulers of the third house, so seeing your third house light up makes sense in that regard, especially during your season. And we have the North Node. So the North Node is actually wrapping up the end of its transit through Pisces. And for you guys, Pisces is actually your 10th house of career and social status. So we'll keep all of that in mind as we go through the main spread. Okay, so for the first house energy, which generally points to personality, self-awareness, and appearance, we have the 7 of Cups. So seeing this here could just be saying that you might have some new people moving into your environment this month, and you might feel like there's a bit of a disconnect between you and them, right? You might feel like, well, I mean, if we take the artwork at face value, right, you might feel like these people are coming from another planet, like, okay, not sure where these people came from, but it is what it is, right? And you guys are usually pretty adaptable. This could definitely be due to the fact that you guys have Uranus back in your sign, right? So that could just be bringing different personality types than you might have been accustomed to running into your lives around this time. All right, so for the second house, which generally points to possessions, self-worth, and finances, we have Judgment. So seeing this here could just be saying that maybe an opportunity that you had around finances that maybe didn't take off in the past might be ready to actually take off now. So it could just be one of those things where maybe the timing wasn't quite right, You guys still have Jupiter currently in your second house of finances. Like we said, it'll be moving into Leo right at the end of the month, but maybe as that transit's wrapping up, it's building some momentum in this area like for you guys as well. So yeah, like we said, the third house was lighting up with the dice. And for the card representing the third house, which again points to communication, short journey, siblings, we have the Sun. So yeah, so I feel like this is saying that something that you communicate might leave its mark this month. I feel like this is just saying that something that you say, may put you in the spotlight in some way, but I feel like in a positive way overall. But it just might be one of those things that might take you by surprise, right? You might have just said it casually, not really expecting much of it, but then it gains traction. So that could be what you guys are experiencing this month. All right, so for your fourth house energy, which generally points to home, roots, family, we have the 4 of Cups. So this is Cancerian energy here. It could just be saying, when I'm getting with this primarily, it could just be saying you might be feeling a little bit nostalgic this month, and that could happen to people sometimes around their birthday season, right? Maybe you're thinking back to prior years when you were younger, maybe thinking about family members, for example, that you used to interact with around this time of year, but if they're no longer with you, right, there could be some sadness that comes along with that. But that's what I feel like is going on there, and I feel like this is saying that for a lot of you it would be a little bit beneath the surface, so it might not be as readily apparent to people around you that that's how you're feeling, but I feel like it will be a bit of an undertone for you this month. All right, so for your fifth house, which generally points to romance, creativity, and children, we have the 10 of Pentacles. So definitely a good energy to see here. Again, this could just be one of those things where maybe a creative project that you tried to get off the ground in the past, maybe now it's actually taken off. So again, that connects with what we're seeing with the second house, third house, right? So that's what I see there. It could just be saying that, seeds that you might have planted a long time ago might actually be growing at this time. All right, so for your sixth house, which generally points to work, health, and daily routines, we have the moon. So yeah, so to see this here could just be saying similar to what I was saying with the first house energy, right? Where you might feel like you're crossing paths with people where you might start to question like, okay, are we even from the same planet or what, right? So like this is saying that within your work environment, there might be some conversations that are had where you feel like, your world's apart from the other person involved or other people involved, right? So it could just be one of those things, but I feel like there's a bit more of an exploratory nature to the conversations, though, right? So it could just be one of those things where there could be this wide chasm between you, but you could just be working on closing that gap this month. And I do have to say, part of that could be due to the fact that at the very end of June, there will be a Mercury retrograde. Now, that's it's going to be in shadow for a good portion of June before it officially starts the retrograde, but that could be part of what's at play there. So, for your seventh house energy, which in general points to partnerships, contracts, and relationships, we have the King of Cups. So, this is Scorpio energy here. So, I feel like this is saying that, you might find yourselves desiring a strong, long standing commitment, right? But you might be keeping it a bit under wraps, right? You might not be as open about how you're really feeling about that. It's just one of those things where I feel like it's going to be one of those things where it's it's in the back of your mind, but I feel like you're being very strategic and cautious around how you approach that. All right, so for your eighth house energy, which generally points to death, rebirth, intimacy, and investments, we have the Queen of Cups. So this is Cancerian energy here. So especially for you guys, given that Cancer is a financial house, this could be more related to the financial and investment side of things. And if that's the case, it could just be saying that, things that you might have put in toward invested in the past might actually be starting to show some signs of growth now as well, which is obviously a positive. So yeah, so it's like one of those things where, like I said, I feel like these are things that you might have already planted the seeds on quite some time ago. Maybe it seemed like nothing was really catching on, and now you might start to see that surprisingly these things might be coming to the surface in a stronger way than you anticipated. All right, so for the ninth house, which generally points to philosophy, higher learning, and foreign affairs, we have the Knight of Cups. So yeah, to see this here, could just be saying that for some of you, maybe there's going to be some travel involved, maybe to distant places as well. But whatever the case, I feel like there's going to be a strong emotional connection to maybe different cultures, different ways of seeing things. So that could definitely be the positive there, right? Where, like I said, it seems like you might be crossing paths with people that you might feel like, whoa, this feels like a whole new world here. But maybe the more you're around them, you actually start to pick up some valuable information along the way that's actually going to inspire you in turn. All right, so for your 10th house, we have the Page of Cups. So, like we mentioned earlier when we were rolling the dice, we were saying how a 10th house is generally a career and social status thing. So for some of you, maybe that's what's going on there, right? Where, like I said, it seems like you might feel like within your work environment, you might feel like, okay, seems like we're worlds apart here. And maybe that's the case for some of you. Maybe it's because you're entering into a new job, right? So again, maybe this is even something that you had attempted in the past too, but for whatever reason, it didn't take off at that point. Maybe now it will, right? So it could just be one of those things where you might feel like, okay, now I need to adjust here because this feels like a totally different environment to what I'm accustomed to. All right, for your 11th house, which points primarily to friendships, groups, hopes, and wishes, we have the Ace of Pentacles. So yeah, so looking at the artwork here, right, could just be saying that For some of you, it might feel like some connections might crash and burn, right? But then with this being an ace energy, you could just be saying that, it could just be as simple as some older connections might fall away and then some new ones might come along in their place. This could also just be saying that maybe there's some sudden connections that you'd be making as well, like we talked about, which you could get that feel for the ninth house, first house energy. So there's indicators that that could be the case. But yeah, it could just be a bit more of an abrupt energy. All right. And for your 12th house energy, which points primarily to spirituality, blind spots, mental health, we have the world. So, yeah, so looking at the artwork here, you could just be saying that, again, like I said, maybe through the exposure to new people you might be crossing paths with, new environments that you might find yourselves in. I feel like this is saying it's really going to shift how you view the world in some ways, and again, for some of you might keep some of those thoughts and beliefs under wraps, but I feel like it will have an impact on you. And maybe through that, right, that could be what makes your communication more impactful, gets you more noticed as well. So it could just be saying that, yeah, maybe you're going to have these realizations that might come to you suddenly. And again, that could be pointing to the Uranus energy moving into your sign recently as well. All right, so bottom of the deck, we have the Seven of Swords. So yeah, so seeing this here, what I'm getting from this primarily could just be saying that, maybe take information you received this month with a bit of a grain of salt, It might not be that there's any ulterior motives there, but at the very least, I feel like this is asking you to look a little deeper beneath the surface, right? So if we just take the artwork there at face value, right, it looks like the alien's pointing toward their UFO and sharing some kind of information, right? So think of it from this person's perspective. It's like, well, what are they getting out of that dynamic, right, of coming along and sharing this information, showing them what they have, right? So it could just be one of those things where, again, like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's deception at play, but I feel like you'd just be wise to give a little bit more thought to, okay, what's this person getting from this dynamic and from this exchange? And then that could help you figure out how best to handle it going forward. All right, but lastly, like I mentioned, we'll pull a card from the Wisdom of Oracle deck. So I'm just going to give this a few shuffles, then we'll cut the deck and pull a card. All right, we'll take this card. Let me get this out of the way, and we'll see what you got. All right, we have Go to Distance. There's the artwork, and the number is 47. So interesting to see that come up, right? Because like we said, it seems like maybe some seeds you'd planted in the past that maybe you didn't necessarily think were going to lead anywhere. Looks like they could be doing so this month. So that would seem to align with that, right? Because again, like I said, for a lot of you, it doesn't seem like it's necessarily totally brand new stuff. Just might have been things you'd already put into place a long time ago, and now you're finally starting to see traction. But see what it says in the book. All right. Essential meanings says endurance, strength, the long haul. The oracle's message: to bring your dream to life, you must think long term and pay no attention to the fluctuations in the current of your experience. Joy and disappointment commingle with opportunities, so there is no need to fear the occasional obstacle. Life is not a sprint. This card is a reminder that you have endurance, strength, and fortitude to carry you all the way. Remain true to yourself. Your authenticity alone will keep you in alignment with the energy of miracles. What is yours will never be withheld from you. Remember that. So yeah, definitely like that message as well. Particularly those last two sentences, right, referring to, like I said, if there were seeds you'd planted long ago, and you're finally starting to see them bear fruit, it could just be saying that, yeah, it was really yours all along. Maybe this didn't come along in the timeline you were hoping for. That's usually how it works, though, right? The relationship message says you either are in or are calling in a harmonious relationship that can stand the test of time. For better or worse, as you ride the ups and downs and even strain, break yourself, and are remade in new growth, you are being redeemed by the power of regeneration. Harmony does not mean there will never be a wrong note played, but that the relationship is marked by endurance and dedication to overall unity. A new song can be written, an instrument can be tuned, and the symphony of love will play on. Listen with your heart. Isn't it magnificent? So yeah, definitely an interesting message there, especially in the context of seeing the seventh house energy and the eighth house energy being compatible, right? The king and queen of cups right next to each other. And it could just be saying that for some of you as well. Another way I'm looking at these two cards is, like I said, with that Scorpio energy, maybe you're keeping feelings on the wraps. Could just be saying that the person that you're interested in might be doing the same to an extent. So at some point, someone's going to have to open up somewhere, right? And for the prosperity message, it says, your most precious dreams are not about instant gratification, but enduring prosperity. This is a time to think long term and engage in continued action. You will experience momentum building as you translate the ebb and flow into slow and steady movement forward. Your efforts, ideas, and hard work now can lead to greater riches than you can imagine. Stoke the fire so that an uninterrupted stream of energy is available to support you in all the phases of manifestation. Be assured that you're in the right place right now. So yeah, definitely a strong indicator there as well, right? Well, the part about be assured you're in the right place right now. Like I said, with seeing that sixth house energy and the 10th house energy, you might not feel that way right away. But I feel like this is saying, as you give it a little bit more time, you'll start to feel a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, once again, happy birthday to you guys, and we'll wrap up there. All right, bye.